My background in TripleByte. I am originally from England and moved out here in 2007 to go through Y Combinator with my first startup, which is called Orcthematic, and we were building e-commerce software. We sold that company a couple of years later, and then I worked at our acquiring company for a year, then joined YC as initially a sort of like an undefined role in 2010. I was at YC for about 4 years and then left to found TripleByte with my co-founders Armand and Guillaume, who had gone through Y Combinator with their startup SocialCam, which was also acquired. And three of us were brainstorming ideas and came up with this idea for TripleByte, which was a new credential that companies could use to identify really skilled engineers, and that credential would be open to everyone. So that's what TripleByte does, is we do online technical assessments that match engineers to great job opportunities.
You've used coaching in the past. I'd love to hear about the different ways that you've applied coaching to help you improve as a founder.
Coaching, using coaching as a founder has been life-changing for me all round, but like specifically affected the trajectory of TripleByte. I've kind of found the sweet spot for me with coaching is an executive coach who is more sort of pragmatic and tactical. I'll always kind of go in with, here's a problem, it revolves around these people, here's conversations, and she'll like role play, try out different scenarios, and just leave me feeling really prepared. The conversation or whatever it is always goes better.
So as someone who's done both coaching and therapy and still does, how would you define the difference between coaching and therapy?
For me, it's been subject matter, I guess. Like for me, like coaching has been more about, hey, like here's sort of like a specific domain, or here's a specific area I'm looking for help with. And therapy has been more about kind of like the whole, right? So coaching for me has been more like, in this context, for me at least, has been like, coaching has been more like, how can I be a more effective startup founder and CEO? And obviously part of how you can be a better, more effective startup founder and CEO is to have a well-balanced life and be motivated and have energy. But I don't go to coaching with the goal of helping me figure out like my personal relationships or things outside of like my role as CEO. Therapy for me like fills that gap. Therapy for me is more like, hey, like I'm feeling really stressed at work. As opposed to going straight into, is it work? It's like therapy can be more like, hey, like, well, like, is the stress about your work, or is it about your girlfriend, or is it about like something else? Like, I found that to be really, really the difference between the two for me.
So I want to go back to coaching. You talked about role plays, right? And the importance of pre-gaming something before you go into maybe a hard conversation. What are the other ways that you lean on your coach?
There's two actually. So one, just like a practical thing. She can run a 360 process. She can get feedback from people that report to me and help me get some objective feedback on how I'm doing as a leader and help process those. She's as a coach, she's worked with tons of different founders, right? And so she can then sort of benchmark things. So for example, like if you do like a standard 360, you might score high and low in certain areas, but like you're being benchmarked against like everyone who's done like that particular 360. It's helpful to have someone there say, hey, like I've noticed that Series A startup founders often tend to score low in like organization and process. So don't like beat yourself up too much about that. So I found like having someone to interpret that and run a 360 process is really helpful. And then the other one I'd say, just sort of like a little bit of accountability on just like how I'm allocating my time. Like it's good for, periodically I have sessions with my coach where I just talk about, hey, like I'm not sure I'm being like as effective as I can be. And they'll just make me kind of say, okay, like how much time do you think you're spending on A, B, and C? How much time do you want to be spending on these things? Like how can we adjust that? And it's all stuff that you could maybe do by yourself, but having someone there to just like kind of hold you accountable to it is great.
So would you say that the 360 review helps to accelerate the coaching process? Or is it slightly different? Is it more like the 360 review highlights for you the things about yourself that you didn't know?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it does accelerate the coaching process. Like I'm hesitant to say accelerate. I think what it enables you to do is have like higher bandwidth conversations with your coach, right? Like I think it helps you sort of like focus on the where you should be spending your time with your coach, and the helping you understand stuff about yourself is great again in that context of most effectively using your coach, right? Like here's an example, like just for me, like in my 360 feedback, I had self-assessed my ability to articulate sort of the vision and mission of the company much lower than everyone else around me had, right? Like I thought I was like not doing a good enough job of like getting people excited about what we're doing and articulating like a vision, and it turns out like I was way under like the reality of it, and that was great for coaching because I'm like, oh, okay, like initially I'd wanted to spend a lot of time talking about how can I like better articulate mission and vision, and it's like like no, actually that's not actually a problem. Like what's the problem is like these other areas, and so yeah, that essentially is accelerating the coaching process. It doesn't feel like, it's not like it gives you like quick answers immediately. It just like helps you better focus the time that you have.
So the 360 really enriches the coaching process for you, and it makes more certain that the time that you have with your coach is really valuable and well spent.
Yeah, and I think it's really useful for your coach also to get a sense of, because everything that they're hearing about you is obviously filtered through like you and has some skew and bias in it as well. So it's good for them to read sort of some of the more objective data. And in particular, I find that I think it's good for them to read some of the qualitative stuff that comes up in the 360. So there's like the quantitative measures of just kind of like, like how you sort of benchmarked in particular areas. But then just like the free form text fields come up with like interesting anecdotes. And I think those are useful for a coach to just get a sense of like you, so they can like, and I think a good coach can incorporate that into how they coach you.